And he was, saying the same thing. And then he texts me during their break. He said, Gary, I have 2 helicopters just hovering over my house. Because his wife won't let him smoke in the house, so he goes out to the rear, back kitchen door, and he smokes. Now, isn't that kind of strange? You're talking about UFOs, maybe a secret military base on an old farm, and all this stuff, and then you're talking about it, and all of a sudden these helicopters appear. It's strange, but it does happen.
Yes, yeah, I've had some strange things.
Now our show runs to 9:00. I don't know what your time factor is. Can you hang with us to 9:00, or do you?
Sure.
Have to, oh, great. Now, before we go any further, I know James is sitting there biting his fingernails right now, because he has all these questions he wants to ask you. James, I'm going to give you a chance. Go for it.
Okay. Hey, Terry, I'm just curious. Hey, all your previous abductions and sightings of aliens and UFOs, do you think they were the same aliens that you encountered, in the 70s on your camping trip?
I don't. And I'll tell you why. This entity that I saw when I was 4 and 5 years old, that I knew as Sue, I felt affection for her in a maternal way, And, we were awfully young then, but she was very kind to us. And that was a kind of a cool memory to have recovered. And it was recovered under hypnosis. And I'm certain it's not fantasy. It's like psychiatrist. I'm having an MD psychiatrist. I don't want a therapist. I want a psychiatrist. Says it's not confabulation. He says you're recalling genuine events. And I think there are many species. I think there's just many.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've got photographs of Tic Tacs and saucers and crazy flying things. I think there are just a lot of different, and I think some are malevolent and some are benevolent, maybe, and I hope, and some are just benign.
I can't agree more on that one. When you were in the ship there on your camping trip, did you notice different types of species besides the gray and the taller one? Were there different, odd-looking ones? Something that we don't hear about routinely.
Yes, and you probably do hear about it routinely. I saw an insectoid, it's. I think I mentioned that I heard the woman screaming, and then Toby, who was standing next to me, was gone, and then I heard him screaming, "Oh my God, no, oh my God, oh my God." And then the next thing I knew, I'm like frozen, like a plank of wood, and they're loading me up on this table, and it's like, looks like porcelain. And again, it's a incredibly bright lit room. And I'm thinking this table should be cold, and then I realize it's warm because I'm probably the umpteenth body that's laid on it. And they did something to my lower back, and I had early onset of degenerative spine disease on my lower back as a result, I think. And I'm screaming. And I'm filling my lungs with air, and I feel my lungs, my chest rise, and I'm screaming, and I can't hear anything. Well, I can see at the end of the table, working on my back, is the 7-foot-tall insectoid-looking thing with the big, bulbous, multi-lensed eyes. And he's hurting me, and I'm screaming, and my screaming is annoying him. And he turns this big bulbous head in my direction, and he's green. And I hear him crystal clear in my head. He says, "Why are you screaming? Stop screaming. You know we don't hurt you. You know we take you back. Stop screaming." and he hit me in the head with his green finger, and I was out like a light.
Oh, wow.
So that was. But you know what? That guy wasn't as scary as the guy that I locked eyes with.
Mm.
You know, I don't know why, but I had the impression that had I had a chance to talk to this big bug thing, Dr. Bug is what I call him, if I had a chance to talk to him, I almost would have the sense that he'd say, hey, man, no hard feelings, just doing my job. The other guy, the guy that was in control, I don't think so.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned you were on that ship, and it's from the description, it was probably a really big ship, and from what I get from you, there were a lot of other maybe abductees on there at the same time. My question is, have you ever thought of doing some kind of research to find out if you can line up any other abductees that were abducted on that date that you were, that maybe were on the ship the same time you were, to collaborate your stories?
Sure, tried that. You know, the problem is I run into the same problem David Paulides ran into. You know, try to talk to Park Services. You know, I read the Russellville newspaper and Little Rock Times and a couple others for that day. I think it was June 11th, 1977. It was a Saturday. And I couldn't find anybody missing. So my guess is they came out of state parks or something.
Or maybe you could run some kind of search asking for anybody that's been abducted on that date. That would be something if you could find somebody else that was on that ship abducted from a different area of the country or whatever at the same time. That would be that would be groundbreaking.
Or somewhere
that would be groundbreaking.
But how do you know it's even in our own country? It could be abducted anywhere off this world. When you think about the police or the park service, when you try to find out what happened to any of these missing people, they don't want to disclose anything. And a lot of when they go out and do their search and rescue, they cut it really short. And yeah. It's strange. I mean, it's just like, well, we have no information. I mean, it's like they're hiding stuff from us.
Well, I'll tell you, I got a real quick story for you. When I was researching my book, I was searching Devil's Den. I found a Pittsburgh Press news release from 1946. A couple with their 3 children from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, was driving to El Paso, Texas, and decided to spend the night at Devil's Den. And they had 2 boys and a girl, and her name is Catherine Van Alst, and there's videos about her now on YouTube. And she was 7 years old. She was running around the camper with her, and they were in the campsite, and running around the camper with her 2 brothers, and the 2 brothers came around, and the girl didn't. And the mother's there putting breakfast on the table. She's like, boys, where's your mom? Where's your sister? Well, she's right here. Well, no, she's not. And they said, run, quick, run, check the restrooms. And they woke up the old man who was asleep in the camper. And then they got other campers involved. And then by an hour later, they got the Park Service involved. And they did a search with thousands of volunteers, including people from the kids volunteered from the University of Arkansas campus. And they came out in buses. And this sophomore named Chadwick was searching a place that had been searched at least twice before, that was an elevation of 790 feet higher than where they were at. And to get to this spot, she would have had to walk 12 miles on rough terrain on a zigzag course. And he's up there, and he's calling her name, Catherine. And she walks out of a little cave wearing flip-flops and a bathing suit. And she says, here I am. And that was the 7th day. It was the last day of the search. There was this was 3 p.m. There were 2 hours left in the search. And it was a big deal. They recovered her. And they asked her, where you been? She says, I don't know. I was in this cave. She hadn't lost an ounce of weight, and was well hydrated despite the fact there was no potable water anywhere. And except for a few insect bites, she was fine. And what I thought was eerie was a Pittsburgh Press article and the same thing in the Kansas City Star from that day, 1946, said that the mother described her daughter's condition as, quote, eerily calm and utterly serene. She was checked out at the hospital and released. Now, of all the adjectives you could pull up, utterly serene, that's crazy, just crazy.
I would think a child would be in hysterics. I really do. I don't know what type of law you practice, but I can tell you that, any criminal attorney would say in a situation like that, the client or the opposite, would be in this totally out of it, I would think, unless they did something to, brainwash her, and expunge her memory of what happened to her. But I find that very hard that she went that many miles up that elevation on her own. Not at that age. I can't see it.
No. And that's featured in Devil is in the Detail in David Paulides' book. That story is in there too. But yeah, crazy. I think they do wipe our minds. I mean, I know they wipe mine. Like I say, I have bits and pieces. And a lot of it has been through, I was fortunate in that I had because I thought the OSI was going to charge me with something. I had the forethought to write down everything that happened and keep a journal. And then when I started having nightmares, I journaled my nightmares, thinking it would be, because my undergraduate degree is in psychology and it's been an interest of mine, I thought it would be a helpful way, to deal with them. But what it did was it preserved a record of all this. And those journals, my wife kept, and that's what I used for the basis of writing my book. So people say, why is your memory so good? Well, because I have reference material, and besides, this is kind of a big event. You don't forget about it.
No, I find like Timothy Cullen or Calvin Parker, after a while, they didn't remember, and all of a sudden, everything come flowing back. I hate to say it. Our last break is coming up, and then we got a half an hour to, wrap it up. But I want to find out more what happened to you when you were in the military, what you had to go through, and everything else on this. So we'll be back in 3 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Again, you need to check out Terry Lovelace's book. I tell you what, it would make a very good read, and he'll tell you again where you can find it at the end of the show. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a couple.
Earth's history, I sometimes get uptight when reading all those faith-based books, all claim to get it right. In volumes of religious texts which have their own agenda, there lies a silver thread of truth mixed in with propaganda. Be careful what you say to those with whom you'll be at odds, who've taken on the dogma in the pantheon of gods.
Doesn't matter if you're Christian